were in a lot of musicals in the 50s in
lot,
the chorus. And
yes.
We were having a conversation a couple weeks ago, and I noticed you were in White Christmas, directed by a fellow I'm writing about named Mike Curtiz.
Yeah.
I asked you, how did you get the part in White Christmas? And very interesting story.
Well, my mother, who was a witch, and the other word too, but anyway, I was going to meet a friend of mine who was working on White Christmas for lunch, girlfriend of mine. And my mother told me I had to wear these white pedal pushers and this red sweater with gold thread and all the kind of clothes I really hated. And I was saying, no, no, no. And she said, yes, yes, yes. So you didn't argue too long with her. And so off I went. And the fellows in casting said, you know, we don't know when they're going to break for lunch. They're running late. So why don't you just go up on the set and wait for them there. So I did, and I was sitting way in the back and waiting. And I saw this man sort of make a few crosses and everything, but I didn't know who he was or anything. And then one of the assistants came up to me and said, the director wants you to read for this part in the movie. And he gave me this script, and I went in and I met the director, and he said, go look it over and then come back and read for me. Which I did, and then he said, can you talk through your nose? You know, I said, I guess so. And so I got the part, and all the guys in casting were hilarious because evidently he'd been giving them a really hard time and looked through all the dumb blonde girls and didn't like any of them. So that's how I got it.
And he subsequently he took you out to lunch, and he was a gentleman actually.
He was. Isn't that? I found out years later that that wasn't exactly what he was known for. But yeah, well, but I was such a baby in every way that I'm sure he picked up on that and just treated me right. Yeah.
Right. Now, fast forward a little bit, you cut the chorus loose with Stanley and started taking acting lessons with Jeff Corey.
Yeah.
And was this about the time that you connected with Fred, or was this after that?
That was after. I met Fred. I was working for a great choreographer that most people don't know called Jack Cole. And Jack Cole is greatly responsible, not to take anything away from Bob Fosse, but he's through Gwen Verdon. He's greatly responsible for the kind of dance that when Gwen and Cheetah were dancing in musicals, like you've seen Chicago probably or something. Kind of jazz dancing is because of a man called Jack Cole and Gwen Verdon and Bobby, who added, I think Bobby added humor and sex appeal to the kind of dance theater work. But Jack put all the different kinds of dance together. He was responsible for that. Anyway, I was assisting Jack, and I was hello?
Bob's in the house.
I was learning a lot from Jack, and he was a very hard person, sadistically hard to work for, but you knew that if you did it, you would come out ahead because you'd learn a lot. So he had 4 boy dancers that he used all the time, and me. I had started in Kismet in the chorus with him, then I did Designing Woman, I danced in for Dolores Gray, and then it was on Les Girls, when I was dancing in for Kay Kendall, and I was like his 3rd assistant. Anyway, he had these 4 boys and me, and a drummer. Most people only rehearse with a pianist, but Jack used a pianist and a drummer. And I was always way behind everybody else because I didn't know what I was doing. I was trying to figure it out. And this figure would peek around the corner daily, which happened to be Fred. And he'd always look in, sort of dart in around the corner and then dart away. And I came in one day, and there he was. He was sitting there talking to Jack. And he had asked if he would release me to do a little dance in silk stockings, the Commissar number, which I danced with Fred. And that was the beginning, but it was after that film, and it was right at that time at MGM, and I met Stan and so on and so forth. And but I used to see Fred regularly, and one night he said, NBC's been after me to do this show, and would you like to do it with me? Well, I had no idea I was going to be his dance partner. None at all.
Oh, you thought he was just offering you a gig on the show?
Just gonna, anything that Astaire says, would you like to do it? I mean, I'm not going to say no. Anyway, so I said, sure, but I'm under contract to Fox. He said, don't worry about that. I can take care of that. So I went into I got a call to go in the rehearsal hall, and it was just Pam, Hermes Pam, the choreographer, and Fred, and they were just kind of moving around, let's just move around. Okay, I started moving around. And I remember I kept thinking, I am going to step on those feet. I just know it. The best feet in the world, I am going to step all over them. And when we moved around for a couple of weeks, I still had no idea. I thought I was going to be an assistant or something. I had no idea. None at all.
You were rehearsing?
That I was doing what I was, not for someone else.
Wow.
Yeah, so that's how.
When did it hit home that, hey?
When the kids all came in, and I was the one. So yeah.
So how many shows did you end up doing, you and Fred together?
Well, we did 4 specials. Then we did. Boy, it was really bad too. Imagine Astaire. Well, the script was beyond bad.
Which show was this?
It was a Chrysler show called Think Pretty. Had a very nice dance number, wasted at the end of an awful show. It was like the writer said, well, there should be a comedian, and we have to have a love interest, but we can't have too much of a love interest because there's too much age difference, and we have to have a daughter. We'll put all this together and stir it up, and we'll have a show. Yeah, it was really bad. Anyway, we did that, and we did several Hollywood Palaces.
Oh, I remember that show.
We did several of them, yeah. Nick Banoff was an ex-dancer who was the producer, one of the producers of the show. I went to work in Europe a lot after Fred's show because after working with Fred, it's hard. And not only just working with him, but 7 weeks rehearsal and all the best people and everything, putting together a show. It's hard to find that again.
What did you professionally and personally? What did you get from Fred, or what did you learn from Fred?
I don't know. I hope a lot, but I
can't put it into words.
No, I just no. If I did, I'm glad. If any of it rubbed off, I'm glad. But I have.
What type of person was he personally to work with?
Well, you've all heard probably if you know anything, read anything about him, that he was a perfectionist. He was demanding, all of which is true. But he was. He didn't ask any more of you than he asked of himself, and he was very considerate. He was a lot of opposing things. He was very cheap. Very.
In terms of your pay, or in terms of picking up the check and that type of everything?
Yeah, very frugal.
Yeah.
Frugal, and certainly in terms of money, which you always come to, you think first, but frugal in his modus operandi, the way he would do things. It was in a very frugal way. And he used to have a drink with him at his house after when everybody else would go home, not for fun, to discuss what the next day would involve. And he would shake out these dancers are always hungry. He would shake out these macadamia nuts, about 4 or 5 of them. And I just marvel at it. And finally one day I said, you know, what's that all about? Because I'd always have to say, could I have a few more nuts? And
dole them
out. And so I said, you know, what's that all about, Fred? And he said, well, you know, these are very expensive. So, yeah. But you know, I look at the Turners showing a lot of the Astaire movies now. And I mean, I love Kelly. And there's not Singing in the Rain was an incredible number and so on and so forth. But I don't think anybody quite moves the way Astaire did.
No.
Yeah.
You talk about American dance in the 20th century. I mean, Fred Astaire's name usually comes first as a popular, and there was nobody like him.
Yeah, I used to say, I don't think, when I said this, and people don't seem to understand it now, I hope you do, but if you take the dances that Fred did and slow motion them, there's never an awkward moment. And that's really rare. You're always going to see a weird foot or a weird hand or something that's just, oops. But not, he was like an animal, you know, like cats, and he loved cats and horses, and he certainly moved like one.